and the Senate fiscal. I deal with this, you and I deal with the Senate fiscal. They do an excellent job. This whole stimulus package was, I believe, something like 1,200 pages. A big bill.
Big bill.
No one is able to sit down and read the whole thing word for word and necessarily understand it. So as people read it, new ideas come through, new rules come through. Our fiscal people work very hard to stay on top of those rules. They stay in touch with Washington. What does this mean? What does this say? You know, does this mean this? So we're working very hard every day, and every day we get some new information. Here's some money that we didn't expect, or, oh, this is the only way you can use this money, or we think that it says this, so if it does, this is what it means to this budget. It's ongoing every day. And again, there could be more money. You know, it's coming in stages. It could be more, especially if some states choose not to use their money. But it has to be used according to the rules. Some of this money is under what we call federal formulas. Some of it comes under rules such as you can't spend less on a program than you did in '09. You can't be cutting that program. That makes it a little harder for us. We can't reduce spending in a certain budget because we won't get the stimulus money if we do that. So, you know, we've got a tightrope to walk here, and keeping track of it is the hardest thing. And right now we are learning every day what some of these tightrope acts are going to be, and that changes our decisions sometimes once a week because of what we know we can and cannot do now.
And I know yesterday we just talked about trying to find really what some of these formulas are. That, let's say the federal money does have to fall through a certain formula. We're finding that we don't even know some of these formulas yet because we're still getting that researched by people. Some people just know it. Maybe a department knows some of that information, but we're, like you said, we're learning on a daily basis. We may get 100 million, 200 million, but it's got to fall, and it has to go to a certain set of people, or below a certain income, or above a certain, well, maybe not above, but there's very, very strong parameters that go around some of these dollars. So.
That's right, and it must be used that way. So, you know, part of the problem is if you've got a large amount of money and you're shoveling it into one area, you have to be very careful so it doesn't get misused or wasted, or else why bother getting it? So we have to watch even those things that are under federal formula. We have to watch and make sure they get used correctly and wisely so that they're not, just because it's there doesn't mean you have to spend it or spend it wrong. You still want to spend it right. So that's a big part of it. And some of this money is going to be distributed by our state agencies in Michigan, and they get to set the rules. Well, we want to know what those rules are. If there's already a set of rules in place, we want to make sure that those rules are followed, that somebody doesn't make up a new set of rules or a new set of distributions when you know, we've been using this other formula that everybody agreed to. Part of our job is to make sure that we continue using the fair formula and doing it correctly. If it needs changing, we'll scrutinize that, but we have, you know, it's a lot of money, and unfortunately when you get a lot of money there's always a chance of misuse or fraud or something, and we want to do all we can to protect the people of Michigan, to be confident that's not going to happen here.
Well, I think our test run was really on the transportation, which was kind of a big discussion of making sure that each region, because the MDOT, Michigan Department of Transportation, has kind of regions, and they have different communities that are in those regions, and we know there's population bases in each of those regions. So we were, in the stimulus process in the Senate, we were trying to make sure that of all that $872 million that went through, that each region kind of got their fair share. And so that's kind of that was our first test run of the stimulus. And,
well, it was, and you know, MDOT has a 5-year plan, and for some reason they varied from that plan a little bit, and here we were saying, well, no, maybe we better go back to that 5-year plan. That's what's fair, and to make sure that every region of the state enjoyed some of that stimulus money for roads.
Kind of the fair share idea.
Right.
So, Well, okay, I have a couple of questions. What I like to do at the end of my program here is I get a question or two from my district, and we try to, kind of bring those out. So I'm gonna read you the first one. Does the stimulus package change any of the funding equations generally used in the appropriations process, or is it just adding the federal money on top of what generally is there already? And that's from Robert in Caledonia.
Oh, well, good. Our goal is not to change the equations. If it was fair, for instance, in the roads situation, we have what we call PA 51, Act 51, for dividing money between locals and state roads, etc. We've used that for years, since 1951. We shouldn't change that equation now because suddenly we have a large influx of money. The locals still need money for their roads, and so we should follow that formula and get that. And they are getting theirs because we did it that way. But that's just one example. If you have an equation or a formula that works, you should maintain that formula.
And I can, even after the committee yesterday, there was a lot of questions kind of following through with that. And if somebody's gotten $2 million a year for their life in a particular program, but all of a sudden they got $200 million, we're also asking, can they handle that $200 million? That was a discussion yesterday in one of in part of this. So we're using those formulas, but we're also asking, is it a wise way to use that money? Is there another way we ought to be, kind of thinking through that? So
well, and one of the things we have to look at is it possible to spend that money at one time? Should it be held back for 6 months or a year? That's why it's going to take a couple of years to spend this money, because maybe you can't find enough contractors to get the job done all at once. That doesn't mean you just throw the money at them.
Sure.
You divvy it out, work it out, and make sure that you get the spending done the best way you can.
Okay. Final question, and then we can wrap this up for us. What specific areas are targeted for help by the stimulus plan? And do you guys, through the appropriations process, have the ability to decide where all of the final destinations of the money will be? And that's Andrea in Rockford.
Well, good, Andrea. I could go through the different departments. Money goes to the community health, goes to education, goes to energy, labor, and economic growth offices. It goes to the environmental quality, history, arts, and libraries, human services, management and budget, military and veteran affairs, state police, transportation, treasury, and those aren't all of our budgets. It could go to agriculture, it could go to many other budgets. So it goes to all these different areas. There are a lot of ways in each one of those where we stimulate the economy, whether it be adding programs on a temporary basis, but to get things kick-started, or just to make programs more open to people, make more available, putting more people to work. That's what we want to get done. So we do have the ability to decide on final destinations of this money, but we have to follow the formulas, especially if they're federal formulas.
Sure. Well, Senator Jelinek, I want to thank you for your time. We have run out of time, and so I just appreciate you coming in and getting here aside from your busy schedule, because I know we have a very busy day actually today in the Senate on appropriations. We're going to be voting on a lot of bills to get those budgets.
We will be very busy.
So anyway.
And thank you, and thank you for all of your hard work in the Michigan Senate as well.
Thank you very much, and welcome thank you all of you for visiting with us today and listening in. And I hope you enjoyed the show, and we'll see you next month.